If you're looking to lose weight without feeling restricted or starving yourself or counting calories, then I have an easy step-by-step protocol for you. In this lesson, I'll be sharing a 7-day protocol for you to follow these easy steps, and you can follow it week after week until you achieve your ideal body weight. The first step in your protocol is to emphasize the hormone insulin. And when I say emphasize, we actually want to lower that hormone insulin. When we think about the metabolism in the human body, there are over 600 hormones inside of your body. Hormones are simply chemical messengers. Out of those 600 plus hormones in your body, only one of those hormones signal fat storage. And this is the energy sensor, also the hormone insulin. If you have high levels of insulin, you're going to be storing fat. When you have low levels of insulin, you're going to be burning fat. There are certain foods that elicit an insulin response, and when you elicit that insulin response, your fat-burning hormones, they go into hiding because insulin is the bully of the block. So you might be asking and wondering, how do I lower insulin, Ben? That's a great question. Let's look at the 3 macronutrients out there. We have protein, carbohydrates, and fat. It is the carbohydrates that will give you the biggest insulin response. And yes, processed carbohydrates will give you a bigger insulin response than whole foods carbohydrates, but they will all give you an insulin response. Protein, on the other hand, gives a small insulin response, and fat does not touch the dial on insulin. As you can see here on this chart by 𝙈𝙍𝙍𝙀, when you eat different macronutrients, carbohydrates, protein, and fat, you can see the carbohydrates give you the biggest insulin response. Protein is a fair response, but nothing major. And then fat keeps your insulin steady. So your first step is to lower the carbohydrates that spike insulin and eat the fats and proteins that keep your insulin low, allowing you to burn fat. So here's a list of the carbohydrates that spike insulin that you want to limit as much as possible. Oats, including oatmeal, cereal, all breads, grains, fruit and fruit juices, quinoa, white rice, brown rice, white potatoes and sweet potatoes, and all legumes, including beans, peanuts, lentils, and chickpeas. What you're going to want to do is swap those out for better insulin-friendly foods. These include cauliflower rice instead of regular rice. Squash rice and cabbage rice is also a good option as well. Eggs and red meat are terrific to put your body in a fat-burning, anti-inflammatory state. And seafood, but it has to be the right seafood. There's the SMASH acronym that I recommend you follow. That acronym stands for sardines, mackerel, anchovies, salmon, and herring. What these fatty fish all have in common is that they are smaller fish. Keep in mind, the bigger the fish, the more toxins it stores and the more toxins you absorb. So you don't want to eat big fish like tuna and swordfish and others out there. The SMASH acronym is what you want to follow if you're going to consume seafood. And then we have poultry like chicken and turkey as well. It is important to source the right types of proteins and carbs, make sure it's organic, non-GMO as much as possible. In terms of how many carbohydrates to consume to keep insulin low, a good rule of thumb to follow is no more than 100 grams of total carbohydrates per day. Now, if you could drop that under 50 grams of total carbs per day, you'll see even faster results because you'll allow your body to switch into a ketogenic state, which is perfect for burning fat and producing a ton of energy. Protein should also be a staple here. We don't want to forget about that. So I recommend to get at least 30 grams of protein at all of your meals. Protein is going to activate different hormones and chemicals such as cholecystokinin, peptide YY, and leptin. And all this means is it helps your brain, your stomach, your body feel full and satiated and prevents you from overeating, especially overeating processed junk food. I personally get my high quality meats and seafood from a company called Wild Pastures. They deliver it right to my door every month. They are hands down the cleanest meats and seafood you'll find out there. They taste delicious and they support regenerative farms. I'm a big fan of them. If you head over to ketocampmeat.com, you get a special deal off of Wild Pastures meats and seafood, and I'll drop that link down below. Part of this first step here in your protocol is to eliminate the snacking. You're gonna have your 3 meals per day. Again, I mentioned we're not gonna do much fasting unless you want to and have already been doing it, but we do wanna eliminate snacks because every time you snack, whether it's a healthy snack or an unhealthy snack, it will produce insulin, unless it's 100% fat, which is rare these days. And whenever you produce insulin, as I mentioned, your fat-burning hormones are going into hiding. So if you keep snacking in between your meals, you're not gonna allow your body to go into a fat-burning state. It disrupts your metabolism. It's like somebody knocking on your door every 3 hours when you're trying to get work done and focus, and they're banging on your door, interrupting your flow. In this case, interrupting your metabolism's flow to burn fat. So if you have 3 meals a day, what that would look like, let's say 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. will be the 3 meals, giving you some time in between those meals and overnight to lower insulin and burn fat. The second step in your protocol is to lower cell inflammation. There are different types of inflammation. You've heard of inflammation. It was on the cover of Time magazine, inflammation, the root cause of all disease. And there are 2 primary types of inflammation. You have acute inflammation from an injury or a sore shoulder from a workout or a sprained ankle. I'm not talking about that type of inflammation. I'm referring to cellular membrane inflammation, which is chronic inflammation. You see, you have 30 to 70 trillion cells in your body. Every cell has a lipid bilayer around it called the cell membrane. And those membranes have important functions. They have these receptor sites, about 30,000 on one cell. And these receptor sites act as cell phone antennas. They're also called integral membrane proteins. So think of a cell phone antenna. If you have a cell phone antenna, the job of that cell phone antenna is to receive a signal to produce a job. So your fat-burning hormones, for example, are sending signals to your cells, telling your cells and your mitochondria to produce the job of burning fat and producing energy. When there's too much cell inflammation, that communication is blocked, and instead of burning fat, you're storing fat, meaning good things cannot get into the cell, bad things cannot get out of the cell, and it leads to weight gain and weight loss resistance. Another term for this is hormone resistance. So there are some foods I'm going to identify for you right now. You want to write them down. Make sure you do not consume these foods during your protocol so you can lower inflammation and allow those fat-burning hormones to get into your cells. The first classification of foods are called vegetable oils. Other names for them include linoleic acid, seed oils, and omega-6 fats. These oils are so inflammatory, arguably more inflammatory than processed sugar and smoking cigarettes, because they stay in your body around your cells for years. The half-life, meaning if you stopped eating them today, half of them will remain in your body fat 680 days later. That's why they are so inflammatory and so problematic. So here's the list that you want to avoid. Read the ingredients, ask the server at the restaurant about these oils, avoid them as much as possible. We have canola oil, which is called rapeseed oil in the UK, corn oil, cottonseed oil, soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil, grapeseed oil, refined peanut oil, and fish oil. These are all unstable inflammatory fats, and they're everywhere. It's estimated they're in 80% of our food supply. They are carcinogenic, meaning a study by Dr. Martin Grufeld showed that these oils create as much carcinogens in your body as smoking cigarettes. They did a study analyzing 20 to 25 French fries fried in these bad fats, canola oil, and it created as much aldehydes, which are carcinogenic, as smoking 20 to 25 cigarettes. Yikes. So what I suggest is to swap those bad fats for healthy fats that support that cell membrane integrity and allow those fat-burning hormones to get into your cells. These are called saturated fats and monounsaturated fats. The list of saturated fats that I recommend you cook your foods in will be butter, ghee, beef tallow, duck fat, lard from healthy pigs, non-hydrogenized. The other healthy set of fats that are monounsaturated fats are great for salad dressings and dips. That includes avocado oil and olive oil. Coconut oil is also a good saturated fat for cooking as well. And just a quick pro tip for you, when you're at the restaurants, they're gonna serve these bad fats. And what I do is I show them my seed oil allergy card, and it shows the bad fats, it shows that you're allergic to them, and it shows the healthier swaps, and you just show it to the server, and they will accommodate. And you can get this for free, my gift to you, by heading to seedoilcard.com or clicking the link in the notes down below. The next set of foods you want to replace is artificial sweeteners and processed sugar. We know that artificial sweeteners wreck the gut microbiome, and some people it causes them to produce insulin, and it also causes people to overeat. That means drinking diet soda is just as bad as regular soda. It's not a healthy swap. Diet Snapple, all these diet drinks, they contain these inflammatory artificial ingredients. So here's a list of the ones you want to avoid. Raw sugar, processed sugar, fruit juices and smoothies, evaporated cane juice, agave nectar, sucralose, which is in Splenda, and aspartame. Replace them with healthier swaps. These include stevia, monk fruit, allulose, xylitol, erythritol, and even raw honey in small amounts. If you're looking for a more comprehensive grocery list for your protocol, I put together this Keto Camp Blueprint for you, which is a free step-by-step, aisle-by-aisle document of the right foods to eat when you go to the grocery store. So you could get this for free if you go over to ketocampblueprint.com. I'll drop that link for you to get this download for free. The next ingredient to avoid is high fructose corn syrup. And you might be thinking, I already know that's bad for me, but I'm gonna share some surprising names that high fructose corn syrup hides under with your healthy foods out there. And of course, I'm putting that in quotation marks. First, let's understand this. Every cell in your body have mitochondria, with the exception of red blood cells. And the mitochondria are important for producing energy, so you have energy and feel good. But as it relates to fat loss, the more energy you produce, the more it raises your basal metabolic rate, your metabolism, and the more fat you burn. High fructose corn syrup is mitochondrial poison. When you consume it, it destroys your metabolism and its ability to produce energy. Not only does this slow down your metabolism, it also raises inflammation at that cell level, preventing your fat-burning hormones from getting into the cell and burning fat. High fructose corn syrup does not trigger the same feelings of fullness as other nutrients, leading to increased food intake. The lack of satiety can cause individuals to eat more than necessary, which obviously contributes to weight gain. High fructose corn syrup leads to hyperinsulinemia, in other words, insulin resistance, a condition where your body cells become less responsive to insulin. This can result in higher blood sugar levels, increased fat storage, particularly around the stomach. Another issue with high fructose corn syrup is that it's primarily metabolized by the liver. 90% of it is metabolized by your liver. And excessive fructose consumption can lead the conversion of fructose to fat, contributing to liver fat accumulation and overall body fat. High fructose corn syrup leads to higher levels of triglycerides in the bloodstream, which are a type of fat. Elevated triglycerides can promote fat storage and weight gain, particularly again around the stomach. Here are the other hidden ingredients with different names that contain high fructose corn syrup. Make sure you read the ingredients label and make sure it does not have any of the items I'm about to list. Corn syrup, glucose, fructose syrup, isoglucose, maize syrup, fructose glucose syrup, tapioca syrup, fruit fructose, glucose syrup, and high fructose maize syrup. One of the companies that I use that do not use these artificial ingredients I mentioned is a company called Thrive Market, and you could actually check out their products and get 30% off your first order and a free gift when you click the link in the notes down below. They deliver it right to your door. It's kind of like Whole Foods meets Costco. It's a membership, and they have, most of their items are pretty clean. The third step in your protocol is to close the kitchen 3 hours before bed, at least 3 hours before bed, meaning no food at least 3 hours before you go to bed. The closer you eat to bed, the less deep sleep and fat burning you'll get. It's actually one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to lose weight, not to mention it's a fast way to raise inflammation in your body and accelerate the aging process. When you give your body energy by eating food and then go to bed, there is no activity expenditure on the energy you just consumed, so your metabolism just stores it as fat. Eating before bed also raises your body temperature, which is the opposite of what you want in order to achieve deep delta sleep, where your fat-burning hormones are activated and ramping up fat burning during that stage of sleep. When you eat and go to bed, it could also lead to acid reflux and GERD, and also waking up in the morning feeling groggy and hungry. This is because the research shows when you don't get enough deep sleep, you'll wake up the next morning with higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, higher levels of blood sugar, glucose, higher levels of the hunger hormone ghrelin, and lower levels of the satiety hormone called leptin. So the rule is no food at least 3 hours before bed. For example, if you go to bed at 11 p.m. at night, the kitchen should be closed by 8 p.m. at the latest. The fourth step in your protocol is to consume 1 tablespoon of the following ingredients every day to enhance fat burning. The first ingredient is medium chain triglycerides, MCT oil or MCT powder. There are different types of MCTs out there. There is C6, C8, C10, C12. Then there are long chain fats and short chain fats. The one that has the best research in terms of fat burning and ketone production is C8 MCT oil called caprylic acid. As you can see here, this study showed that C8 caprylic acid alone increases plasma ketone response more than coconut oil or other medium chain triglycerides. That's important because ketones actually help your mitochondria produce more energy, and it raises your basal metabolic rate. So I would recommend 1 tablespoon of MCT oil per day. I personally put it in my coffee. You could also put it in your tea or just have a tablespoon straight up. I'll put the company that I use in the notes down below. The next ingredient is resveratrol powder. Resveratrol, a polyphenolic compound found in grapes and wines, has notable health benefits, particularly for mitochondrial health and fat loss. It enhances mitochondrial function by activating your sirtuin genes and creating a process called mitochondrial uncoupling. To keep things short, all that means it helps to extend your lifespan, anti-age you by protecting your DNA, and it creates a process called the uncoupling of mitochondria, which gets rid of free radicals that are built up when your cells produce energy. It's a win-win. And I'll drop a study on what resveratrol does for inflammation and weight loss down below. I personally recommend it from Japanese knotweed powder, tablespoon per day, and I'll put a link for the one that I recommend and use in the notes down below. The third ingredient is apple cider vinegar. I know you've heard of apple cider vinegar. There's a ton of information about it out there, and for good reason. It really helps with fat loss and postprandial glucose and insulin resistance, but it has to be the right type of apple cider vinegar. Before I talk about that, here are the 3 major reasons why apple cider vinegar works. Number 1, it contains acetic acid, which is a short-chain fatty acid, which helps to ramp up the metabolism and curb appetite by 600 calories per day. Number 2, it aids in digestion. Your liver, which is one of the most important detoxification and fat loss organs in your body, loves apple cider vinegar because it stimulates the liver to produce bile, which is a detergent to break down fat, and that's important for your metabolism because your metabolism loves the vitamins A, D, E, and K, these fat-soluble vitamins, to use it for cell energy. And healthy bile helps to accomplish that. Apple cider vinegar helps to signal to the liver to produce that healthy bile. It also helps with acid reflux and GERD. Apple cider vinegar also helps with postprandial glucose. That is your glucose response after eating a meal. When you eat a meal, the higher your blood sugars go, the more insulin is produced, and the more you store body fat. And if you could blunt that postprandial glucose response, you'll go back to burning fat faster. Apple cider vinegar helps accomplish this. So the best time to take your apple cider vinegar is 15 to 20 minutes before all of your meals. If you choose the liquid form, get an organic, good company, take a tablespoon 15 to 20 minutes before your meals. I don't recommend the gummies. I personally use the apple cider vinegar complex from Paleo Valley, which contains not just apple cider vinegar, but 4 other superfoods, and it really helps with that postprandial glucose. I take 2 to 3 capsules before my meals, and you can find that with the coupon code automatically applied by going to the notes down below. The 4th step in your protocol is to go for a walk after your biggest meal of the day. The meal that has the most carbs is ideal. Timing your walks after your meals has tremendous fat loss benefits. We just spoke about that postprandial glucose response. Walking after a meal is another great way, along with apple cider vinegar, to blunt that postprandial glucose response. You can see here with the study the effects of postprandial walking on the glucose response after meals with different characteristics. This study showed that postprandial brisk walking substantially reduced the glucose peak in both studies. And they looked at people eating a high carb meal, a low carb meal, and a mixed meal. And in all the participants, they saw a better postprandial glucose response with a 30-minute walk after the meal. If you could walk after all your meals, that is wonderful. I would recommend that. That's not realistic for a lot of people, so just choose the biggest meal of the day to go for that walk. The 5th step in your protocol is cold exposure. You've heard of cold plunging. It's getting popular these days in the biohacking space. There are several ways to achieve cold exposure. You could take a cold shower, you could jump into a cold plunge, a cold body of water, you could do cryotherapy. All of them are beneficial. You want to make sure the water is at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit or less, and you want to get about 11 minutes total per week. I'll explain more about that in a second, but let me explain how this works for fat loss. When you jump into a cold body of water, it's a shock to your system. Your liver produces these cold shock proteins, and it also stresses your mitochondria in a good way to create mitochondrial biogenesis, the creation of new mitochondria. That's important for energy production and the raising of your metabolism. It also has been shown to turn white fat, which is the fat around your visceral fat, your organs, the bad fat, and convert it to beige, and then the browning of that fat because of the mitochondrial load that becomes increased with cold exposure. Cold exposure also gives you a 250% dopamine increase without a dramatic crash like cocaine might give you. And the cool thing about that dopamine increase, it actually helps you make better decisions the rest of your day. Because a lot of people who are eating processed carbohydrates, they're doing it because of that dopamine hit they get. And when you do cold plunging, you'll get that dopamine hit, but in a healthy manner, so you're not having to get it from ice cream. Pretty cool. It also develops mental resilience, which transfers to other decisions that you make the rest of your day. So I'm a big fan of cold exposure. More is not better. And the sweet spot, as I mentioned, according to the research, is to get 11 minutes total per week. So that's about 90 seconds every day of cold exposure. You want it to be 60 degrees Fahrenheit or less, the temperature, and I would recommend easing your way into the cold exposure, starting very low and slow, and then ramping things up. I personally use the cold plunge from plunge.com. You can see an image of me enjoying my plunge in my backyard, the Keto Camp plunge. And if you go to plunge.com and use the code KETOCAMP, you can get a few $100s off your plunge if you want to get their plunge. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna love a recent video I just did on how to go from 30% body fat to as low as 10% body fat, the no BS guide to burning fat rapidly. This works so well that you can see results within days. The first step in your protocol is to get fat adapted. What does that mean? That means we are teaching your metabolism to burn fat instead of sugar. There are two easy ways to do this within a matter of days.